Great.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you to those of you who trekked in the snow and those of you enjoying from the comfort of home. And hopefully we have a few more join in. This is our December Klamath Film meeting. Just about everyone knows everyone here, but we do have one new person. So just for the sake of that individual, I am Kurt Libke. I'm the board chair, former executive director of Klamath Film. I'm a filmmaker, a commercial drone pilot, and the videographer for Klamath Community College. Worked in Hollywood for about 12 years before I moved up to Southern Oregon, and originally from Eugene. Let's go around and do some introductions. Wayne, why don't you introduce yourself?
Wayne. Wayne Sweat. I'm an actor. I've also produced and directed and done about everything else. I was just looking at my resume. I've been a demon hunter, a pirate, a priest. Let's see, all kinds of darn things. This time I'm playing a ufologist. And if you don't know what that is, there's a test at the end of the meeting. No, somebody that's searching for proof of UFOs. He's an engineer, or excuse me, this one's a retired or a former police officer, done police a lot. Anyhow, yeah, we're supposed to be filming tomorrow. My last days on this feature film tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. God only knows if that's going to happen. But anyhow, having fun. So next.
Thank you for being here. Nina, hello again. Good to see you. It's been so long.
Yeah, it's been a long time no see.
Yeah. Go ahead and I know for Aubrey's our only non-regular, well, I have Tommy here too, I guess. So yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Nima Oberlin. I'm a production designer. I live in Lafayette, Oregon. Just as an FYI for all of you guys, I grew up in Southern Oregon, so pretty much Medford, Ashland, Rogue River, Grants Pass for all my old stomping grounds. I lived there for like 30 some years. So it's always fun down there. But I kind of do a lot of like more animation stuff, music videos once in a while. Anything that anyone wants done, pretty much for production design, that's what I'm willing to do. So it's all fun.
Terrific. Well, thank you for joining us, Cassidy and Tommy.
Hello.
Whoever doesn't have a mouthful of food.
Yeah, I'm not to be rude, but I'm going to be eating too. So.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, my name is Tommy and I'm here with Cassidy. I'm a citizen who appreciates film and yeah, I have no background in film whatsoever besides TV and watching, but I'm excited to finally be at a meeting. So good to see everybody.
Good to see you.
Tommy has been a great volunteer too for us, as in anything that I need him to do. He does. But I'm Cassidy. I'm the director of Klamath Film and super happy to be here. I mostly do documentary style things and really enjoy it. So thanks so much for everyone being here for our final meeting of the year. It's great to have everybody.
And Aubrey, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hello. So I am a filmmaker primarily, I suppose. I'm also a designer. In film, I'm basically just doing editing these days. I do a lot of post-production stuff, but I've kind of done full gamut, like writing, directing, producing. I haven't done production design for film, but I do it for theater. So I'm actually sort of trying to get into that. If anyone wants like scenic painting and stuff, exploring that. But yeah, I was a programmer for AIFF for the last couple of years. Had a couple of adventure documentaries that I've worked on in the last few years, feature films that did pretty well in festivals. One of them was like a rock climbing. It's like the history of rock climbing. The other one was kayaking. I'm not an adventure person, but I ended up in that industry. So I guess it's primarily been the documentary film, like adventure film industry, but I like kind of do whatever, narrative, music videos, commercial randomness, and I think that's all I can think of. Oh, theater company. Sorry, yeah, Puppeteers for Fears. That's what Kurt was
That,
So I guess
that's so we know you.
Klamath folks would know me from Puppeteers for Fears. So yeah, my partner and I co-founded this theater company about 7 years ago now, and we do all original musical theater with horror and sci-fi themes, all with puppets. And we just started touring again. We had a long COVID hiatus because it's really hard to tour with, mid-plague, the way our theater is set up. But yeah, we just had a pretty successful regional tour and are planning a new tour for next year, probably in the summer. So we're hoping to get out to Klamath. It's, tour routing is difficult. We'll see how it all goes, but we'd really love to make it out there. We do so well in towns like Klamath. People are just like, they really have a passion for the weird of what we do. So hopefully we'll try to get out there. So yeah. Anyway,
Well, thank you, Aubrey, for joining us. We appreciate it. And the person that you need to talk to actually just walked in because Andrew in the back there works at the Ross Raglan Theater, which is where I think the touring show would be incredible. I think that would fit perfectly to do a Puppeteers for Fears Cthulhu the musical at the Ross Raglan Theater. I think would be pretty amazing. So,
mic check here, or
yeah, you're coming through.
oh, very cool. Yeah, I think that would be a blast if we got something like that arranged.
I've been harassing Aubrey every time I see her about trying to do that as maybe a tie-in with the Comic-Con here, and also do a screening at the Raglan. So we'll see if we can work out.
It's really a timelines thing. I think if we're touring in July and y'all are doing that in May, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we may not be ready to do anything with it by May, but would love to work something out. Isn't Ross Raglan a 7,000 seat theater? Is that the
785?
700? Okay. Still. I don't know. I think our biggest crowd was like 300. So I was like, I don't know. I will say we've filled a 700, we've done 300 people in a 700 seat theater, and it still feels like a full show. So we try not to do a large theater and have like 30 people show up just because it can be a bummer. But I think it could be a nice space. I've seen pictures of it. I haven't been able to go out and actually see the theater in person. Would love to at some point.
Well,
They have some rooms on the side of the building that I've been in some plays, involved in some plays that they'll only hold about 100 or so people, but they're not quite as daunting.
And there's also the Linkville Playhouse in town, which is a much more smaller, intimate theater that'll seat maybe about 100.
Yeah, and Kurt says 750 inside the Raglan. I say 800 because we absolutely want people to bring their kids in and put them in their laps. I mean, yeah, we'll pack them in.
So
we constantly have to stress that PFF is not a kid-friendly show.
Yeah, I know.
Have blinders on, earplugs.
A lot of it, honestly, is like people see Puppet Show and they're like, "Oh, this will be some great short-form comedy," and it's like feature length. It's a 2-hour musical with an intermission, and asking a 4-year-old to sit through that is like, so.
Like sex and nudity and a lot of naughty words and.
It was all ages, but I think this documentary, it was great stuff, and it would be awesome to have you on stage at our event.
Cool. Yeah.
Is there a rating for nude puppets?
What?
Is there a rating for nude puppets?
I think P18.
Well, there was that like Muppet Murders film that came out like a year or two ago. That was
that's right. Yeah, and then there's the old what is it? Meet the Feebles.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson, the director of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Back in his early days, he did
and now there's Benny Loves You as well, and a few others.
There's a market for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very niche market. We were doing introductions though, so Andrew, why don't you run through that?
Yeah, so introductions, over at the Ross Raglan, I am the stage manager and one of the crew managers. For TIFF, is there anything specific you'd like me to say first?
No, just basic background.
Yeah, so I'm a filmmaker, producer, publicist, and fundraiser. I have 20 years of film experience, 5 years of running my own company, from being an executive producer for international co-productions and indie films and documentaries. And also for stage, I have 30 years of experience. So I'm happy to bring that to KIF, and great to be here. But with the weather we're having, I'm very sorry I came in a little late. For those of us who play Mario Kart, it's like an ice stage out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I did. But I am looking forward.
Pass it back that way. Well, thank you everyone for being here. So normally our meetings, we always have a featured guest every month from someone that, in the industry to join us and just kind of do a casual Q&A about what they do. I talked to Josh Miller about joining us, and unfortunately he's doing a bunch of press tonight because his next feature film is actually releasing in theaters nationally tonight. He's the screenwriter of Violent Night. So he couldn't make it, but he's probably going to join us in January or February. He's also co-screenwriter of the Sonic the Hedgehog film. So we'll have Josh joining us hopefully sometime soon. He wanted to be here, but obviously a little preoccupied with having a massive multi-million-dollar film project being released this week, and there's a little bit of press he has to do. So tonight we're not going to have a guest. Instead, we wanted to run through kind of a little recap of our 2022 and really pick people's brains about what we want to do going forward for next year and things that people want to see and how we could improve and all of that fun stuff. December is as good of a time as any to really kind of recap. So just as a quick run through, we have, oh, hang on a second. I did not connect. Oh no. Ecamm is not being recognized by Zoom. Let's see here. OBS. Well, I guess I can't then. Man, I have multiple things not working tonight. That's wonderful. I guess those of you in-house can see. Those of you on Zoom won't be able to. My bad. Technology is not cooperating tonight. We have several new board members. For our bylaws, every year we hold an election among members and have 2 board members that get elected to 1-year terms. Those are going to be Bowen Browder and Nina Oberlin. So thank you, Nina, for being a part of our board going forward. Yay. You can see you can see their pictures on here if Ecamm was actually cooperating with Zoom. And then also Andrew, sitting in the back as well, also was voted in last night by our board after an application process to take over one of our 3-year seats on our board. So thank you, Andrew, for being a part of our board going forward. Our year, from an admin perspective, has been interesting. I stepped down as executive director late last year, and the vice chair, Court Canick, stepped into my position with the plan being that he would be our executive director for about a year, maybe 2, as we trained an eventual successor, and that person became Cassidy. And unfortunately, Court came down with a pretty severe mental, or not mental, health issue that forced him to resign and move away from Klamath. So I haven't talked to him in a while. I hope he's doing well. But a bit sooner than we hoped, but Cassidy's been doing an awesome job as our executive director. So that was some changes there. And then our many guests at these meetings, again, those of us sitting here get the luxury of seeing this stuff, but none of you on Zoom can. Our guests throughout the year, we had Sky Borgman join us in February, who is a Klamath-raised filmmaker and professor of film at USC. He's been doing a bunch of true crime documentaries for Netflix. Has a new one out just, I think, last month, and has had a couple of them appear on Netflix this year. In April, we had Tim Williams, who is the director of the Oregon Film Office, talking to us about all the different state incentives. In May, Denise Stillwell joined us in person here. She is a former Fox, 20th Century Fox executive. And so we got to talk about some of the insider process with production and fundraising and distribution and all that with her. In June, we talked to Shelley Lipkin, who is a longtime actor in the industry in film and television, who's now also a screenwriter and playwright up in Portland. In July, we had two people, Heather Ash and Dominic. You're going to have to say the last name. Thank you. Join us to talk about what they do as producers, screenwriters, and video game designers. In August, Catherine Wilson joined us, who's also raised in the Klamath Basin and is known as the godmother of filmmaking in Oregon. Longtime location scout and casting director, going back to the days of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and National Lampoon's Animal House, and tons of films from the 70s up to present day that she's worked on. In September, we had Dennis Casalio, who actually grew up in Lakeview and is now a film critic down in LA. In October, we had James Westaby, who is a filmmaker up in Portland, and we featured one of his feature films at our 2020 Film Festival at the Video Store, and got to talk about the Ghana film posters. The questions that are always super entertaining. If you want to go on a fun Google deep dive, just look up Ghana movie posters, and you'll see artistic interpretations of films having not seen the film, which are always very fun. And then last month we had Terrence Hines, who is definitely one of those aren't you that guy who's been in that thing actors that's appeared in everything from Leprechaun, Back to the Hood, through many TV shows, and Secret Life of Walter Mitty is probably his most prominent role. Stuck on You, a bunch of films. So we've had a ton of guests throughout the year. We will continue to have a nice variety of people come in to talk to us. It's been great to have folks from the industry doing that. Also in 2022, we've been very busy in terms of getting out at events. Here's a great picture of Court running our canopy tent that you on Zoom can't see. But things like Third Thursday and Saturday Market and other events, we've tried to be more prominent in the community. And hopefully we can continue to do that going forward, and maybe even get into schools a little bit more. I actually just had a conversation today about that. And then events. We did our Oscar-nominated shorts program in March. Normally the Oscars are in February, but because of COVID stuff, they bumped it back a month in 2022. I haven't heard yet. Does anyone know if the Oscars are moving back to February, or will they be March again? Okay. So normally we do the day or two before the Oscars, we will do a special screening at the Pelican Cinemas of the animated and narrative short film, which is always super fun. It's usually about 3 to 4 hours of films, and it's all films that maybe one or two get picked up by Netflix or Amazon Prime, but for the most part, all the films in the Oscars that you will never actually see. Everyone sees the big blockbusters, but the shorts usually don't get distribution. So it's your one and only chance to check out a lot of really cool films. Cassidy spearheaded in April an Earth Day screening at the Fayetteville Museum, where we showed a bunch of short films that were all environmentally conscious films talking about issues like endangered species and whatnot. So that went great. Memorial Day, we did a screening of Gardens of Stone, and Wayne was one of the special guest speakers at that event, talking about veterans issues. So we had a nice panel discussion, then we showed Coppola's film, Gardens of Stone. And then in May, as part of Comic-Con, we did a screening of Frank and Zed, which, if you don't know, is this amazing all-puppet feature-length film that took about 7 years to make in Portland. And it's kind of like if you took Young Frankenstein and put it in the world of The Dark Crystal. You get this really zany, madcap, kind of medieval. It's really a buddy comedy with a Frankenstein and a zombie, but it is a one-of-a-kind film that must be seen. So I'm sure at some point it's going to get distribution. So go check out Frank and Zed. And then we did our film camp in July. It was our third year of doing our film camp. We had 17 middle school and high school kids participate. Of those, all of them participated in a group film project, and then 3 or 4 went off and made their own film as well, including our award winner at KIF for our best student film was done by one of our students in the film camp, Ariana Williams, and she had Owen act in that film, which is on YouTube. Go check it out if you can. I think they all did a terrific job on their short film. And some accolades for us as well. We won the Martha Young Award this year, which was given to us by the Cow Creek Umpqua Indian Foundation in special recognition for doing a community project that was most near and dear to the foundation's founders' interests. So they gave us a special award and a grant for our efforts with our film camp, which was a wonderful thing. And then, of course, our film festival. I thought our film festival this year was fantastic. We had a great turnout. It was wonderful to see people back in the theater again. We were the only film festival in the country that was able to have an in-theater audience in 2020 and one of the few in 2021, but it was mostly still hybrid. So it was great to have the majority of our filmmakers present and a big contingent from Chiloquin come down on Saturday, and just people back in the theater. And what I really loved was our festival, by the time it was over, everyone was buddies. And that was really, really super cool. All the filmmakers really got to know each other well. And I've gone to some other festivals in the state, and the culture that our festival builds, you don't see at other festivals. At others, everyone's just kind of promoting just their film. Come see my film. It's screening at this time. And at ours, it's much more kind of casual, relaxed. Everyone gets to know each other, gets to hang out, kind of gets very super supportive of everyone else's films. And I really love that about our festival, and hope we can continue to have that culture surrounding TIFF. And of course, we did our one-of-a-kind handcrafted trophies specific to each film again this year, with a couple of the winners, the folks from Because We're Family, and also the one that's on screen that hides people on Zoom can't see. The winner from Crouching Comic made multiple social media posts saying that they will only accept handcrafted wooden carved trophies from now on for anything that they may win in the future. So that was that was nice to know that we're doing something that is appreciated. And of course, probably my favorite moment of my entire year, and one of my favorite moments for the rest of my life, will be having a onstage toga dance-off to National Lampoon's Animal House at the start of the film festival, with Otis Day present, singing along and judging who had the best toga. Dick Peterson from the Kingsmen, the band that did Louie Louie, was also there. Both of them told me backstage that had Cassidy worn a white toga, she would have won. But because she was in a purple toga, they gave it to someone else. But they appreciated how much you got into it, Cassidy. So yeah, that was great. And
You
also
guys were great on the toga. I just have to say that. It was amazing to watch. It was awesome.
as I said on stage, I grew up in Eugene, and I was almost born at the Dexter Lake Club. My mom went into labor on my dad's sailboat at Dexter Lake. So they had to get back to the dock, load up the boat, and then determine, can we make it to the hospital, or should we just go to the club to deliver this kid? So I feel like National Lampoon's Animal House has always had a very special place in my life from the day I was born. So that was most definitely a bucket list moment, getting able to dance on stage to shout with Otis Day, and probably about maybe 20 people in togas. It was pretty, and even there were some people in the crowd who didn't come down on stage, but were still dancing in the aisles at the Raglan. So folks got into that. That was awesome. There is also an upcoming event, OMPA. This is its 40th year of existence, and they're having several celebrations across the state. Normally, in Southern Oregon, they hold what they call Cameras and Cocktails event on the first Wednesday of every month in Ashland, Medford, Jacksonville, Grants. I think maybe once twice have gone to Grants Pass. They rotate where they do it, but it's basically a big networking event, kind of like what we do. And this year instead, they're doing birthday celebrations for OMPA. So they haven't announced publicly yet where exactly it's going to be, but Wednesday, December 14th, they're going to be doing kind of their cameras and cocktails style event, but a little bit more as a birthday celebration for OMPA. I don't know if they want to do it as an ugly sweater thing or what, but I do plan on going to that. If anyone in Klamath wants to come along, by all means, welcome to carpool or head out if convenient. They're really great networking opportunities. That's where I ran into Aubrey last month. Actually, I think the September one as well. So, yeah, those events are always great as an opportunity to meet some of the other filmmakers in the region. If people want to save money on gas, I drive an electric car. So, you know.
I'll bring some batteries.
Yeah, with that, that's a basic recap of our 2022. We really wanted to just have this meeting be a very open forum session of things we got right, things we got wrong this past year, things we could do better, and what people want going forward. What should we do looking into the new year? So we will for sure do our Oscar sorts again, because we've done that every year for as long as we've been around. We will for sure obviously have the film festival again. And I found out today, Cassidy, that Casita decided to bump Oktoberfest back a weekend. They decided to do that last night. So, well, they formally voted on it last night. I was told.
23rd.
Yes.
Does that mean they're double booking it?
So we were planning to move the film festival back a weekend so as not to interfere with Oktoberfest.
But my brother is getting married weekend.
So then oh crap. Okay. Hey, I skipped my uncle's funeral for our film festival this year, and some amazing concerts back in Eugene that I was going to attend. So we're gonna have to try to figure out what we want to do, whether we want to continue to compete with Oktoberfest or go back to our previous weekend.
Just said this is the weekend. I was like, the one weekend that I'm booked. Are you kidding me?
Right.
So,
Well, and I realize, filmmakers are not always sports fans, but there is a unofficial law amongst all my buddies that if anyone ever has a wedding between September and January during football season, you are officially disowned, and you are no longer a part of the friends group. We kind of live for college football Saturdays, so that's not okay to have weddings and. Oh yeah.
I have a question. for you guys. Is there a way of combining the Oktoberfest with the film festival, like doing it as a joint thing so it gets people to go to both places?
We
I don't know
may,
how it works there, so I'm just curious.
yeah, we may want to see if we can do that, but I don't know. Oktoberfest gets such a huge crowd. The Running Y collaborates with them. Maybe we could see about doing some screenings at Running Y on that Saturday instead of the Raglan might be a possibility.
that might be a good idea, because we had tried to do like a carpool situation, and then that just didn't end up working out because they were driving people from the city. But I think maybe if we could just move screenings there and then just make it an even bigger event for Klamath Falls, then we'd get more public, and then the filmmakers could have some fun.
Yeah, and that's not unprecedented. Previous years, we would do Friday and Sunday at the Ross Ragland and Saturday at Pelican Cinema. But once we got into live streaming our events and all that, setting up cameras at Pelican, and it was just kind of a logistics nightmare. It would be something we'd have to work out with the Running Y too, figuring out how we could still maintain all of that online aspect. But maybe that is a possibility of we do our feature films as a tie-in with Oktoberfest. If we do bump back a week, that's got something we need to discuss in a little bit further, unfortunately. Or try to convince Casita to move up a week.
People,
area.
Yeah.
Where are the beer gardens located for Oktoberfest here?
So they do the entire thing at the Running Y Ranch Resort, which is about 15-minute drive northwest of town.
Okay.
Um,
Downtown.
I'm in the middle of a meeting.
yeah. So like if you're on 140 heading out towards Medford from here, you pass by Running Y Ranch. It's where they have a giant ice rink and a big hotel and golf course and all that. Yeah, it's a huge resort, and they always hold it on the ice rink.
What about beer gardens in the off-track? Beer
Um,
gardens in the parking lot of American Legion.
right. That would be something that we'd have to do permits with the city, but that
Right.
might be a possibility.
So that's what I'm saying, because
Right.
attendees to the festival could go out and do the beer garden thing, and then they could come in and watch
hmm
the festival screen.
Of course, that also creates the problem of where people are going to park then.
That's, so that would have to be coordinated.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
it,
these
but
are
it,
kind of spitball ideas
Yeah.
to be like, hey, it's another location if you're interested in having your Oktoberfest fun and you don't want to go all the way out to the Y, the ranch.
Mhm.
Again, I'm just kind of like, you know, so
yeah. Yeah, these are all things that we want to address, and so that's why we wanted to have this meeting as kind of an open forum
by the
session
way,
of,
Anthony, I did respond to your email about idea. And I did have another thing to bring up to you, mention what kind of ideas could we possibly think of in regards to other things. I don't know if anybody's interested in things like an action movie festival or
Mhm.
a horror movie festival or a sci-fi movie festival.
Can't
Right.
hear you, Andrew.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So different things, different events that we can do. But if, you know, this is the forum to talk about that or not, I don't know exactly what's on the agenda. I mean, what can we talk about right now, Kurt?
This is totally open forum related to Klamath Film of anything that we may want to consider doing in 2023.
Sure.
The filmmaker that actually did the Puppeteers for Fears film,
Yeah.
coordinates a mini horror fest in Medford every year. That's just
Okay.
like an afternoon, evening, 1 day thing
What time is it?
where they show a couple of shorts.
Halloween time?
Killer Valley Film Fest.
Yeah.
Killer Valley Film Fest, is that yours?
No. That's so it's run by Randy
Grandstrom.
Yes, Grandstrom and Ross. I'm blanking.
Williams.
Thank you.
Okay.
You know all my people. I don't know their names. Ross, who directed the Puppeteers for
People.
Fears film, also worked with the fest. It's pretty much Levi, Randy, and Ross. It's their baby. They've been doing it for a while.
Cool.
It actually, I think, is the only film festival that happened this year because there's like AIFF is, I don't know, no one really knows what's happening there, but Killer Valley happened, even though it was really small. So yeah, horror. I think they used to make it was like a horror and comedy film festival. It's mostly just a horror film fest now, but it you know there's overlap. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How's this for my volume? Is everyone okay with hearing me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
Awesome.
microphone.
Yeah. So one thing that I've learned in my time programming festivals and marathons and events is that horror movies do bring in crowds and bring in audience ticket income for venues and theaters. So if we do like a night of horror or a weekend of horror, that brings in bodies to fill seats. That can be local horror filmmakers, regional, national, international, whatever. That can be during Halloween. It's always a draw. So does anybody have an objection to a Klamath horror movie film festival?
No, that's like the biggest venue, isn't it? Or genre.
Well, the thing is,
I'd love it.
there's what?
I said I'd love it. I love horror movies. Any horror festival, I'll be there.
Yeah, there's an old saying, horror saves business. And it's not just horror. Horror is an easy draw. Action movies, like kung fu films, are an easy draw. And so is sci-fi. Like, you know, Roger Corman. I mean, he made a career for years through 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and on, just even scraping the bottom of the barrel, getting unbelievable amounts of money ripping off movies like Alien. for decades and decades, just raking it in. So if anybody thinks ideas like that could be something we could capitalize off of and have a good time doing, we could always try to think about planning things like that.
So
And you don't have to do it you don't even have to do it in October. The horror festival here in Portland is in July.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
So-
I mean, the Portland Horror Film Festival organizers, Gwen and her husband, are great friends. And I met them just through doing journalism, going there as press and writing reviews of movies they were showing and interviewing celebrities that they had flown in for their Q&As and meet and greets. So they're great. And that, again, they're successful. That's why they keep doing it every year. But Kurt, what were your thoughts?
So initial thoughts, we've had a number of horror shorts come through the Klamath Independent Film Festival the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So we could do some kind of compilation best of TIFF horror. Possibly see if maybe even do another screening of Frank and Zed, because we didn't have a huge audience for that. Which I think doing it at the Oregon Tech Auditorium instead of Pelican was a mistake in retrospect.
Who was it, Chris, last night? Frank and Zed. Oh, those guys.
Yeah.
Was he involved in the production, or is he one of the Portland?
No, that was
or Leica guys?
No, that was just Chris being a curmudgeon.
Chris being.
Yeah. But no,
Chris Sarandon, from Friday Night. He's got that look and that dramatic lighting in his setup. Yeah. Okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it also there is the Scarecrow Row event that happens around Halloween downtown. So they always have a Saturday dedicated where all of the local businesses do Halloween type storefronts. It used to be Italian with Comic-Con at the library, but the library ended their Comic-Con. So families come up and down Main Street in costume and visit places. Maybe having that culminate with a compilation of horror films at the Raglan could be a possibility. It would be about a month after the film festival.
I mean, that's good timing. And if we can
we also need some time to decompress post film festival.
Well, we can divide it into different teams and have different, team members who are on one festival and on another if there's
on deck for TIFF to try to make the film festible happen.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be manageable. I understand.
Yeah. But maybe that's something that the Raglan does as like a co-presentation as a possibility.
Sure. And possibly volunteers too, who would be willing to put in a little bit of legwork and not burn out. Yeah. Because we don't want anybody to get exhausted and have, like you were talking about, any issues with, endurance or mental health or things that could be damaging. Yeah. Like safety and, making sure everyone's okay.
Well, having done a couple film festivals in Cassidy, now having done one, I mean, post film fest is a good time for vacation and sleeping in a little bit, right?
Like I said last night when we were all talking, like I did 2 festivals at once for a couple of years up in Spokane, the Spokane International Film Festival and the Spokane Falls Film Festival. One was for the city, one was for the community college, and doubling down each year, that can be a big workload, especially when it takes quite a bit of focus and time, especially when you're going through Film Freeway and vetting movies for the program. So, if you can do it, you can, and if not, then you just pass it on to someone who can step in. So we're all here to support each other.
Yeah.
I like your idea about including stuff that you guys have already received, like through the past years for horror, because a lot of people don't really get to watch all those, and it's still Oregon. You're still promoting Oregon films and stuff like that. I think that'd be a really cool idea, because then you guys already have a lot of the films there, and it's just a matter of choosing. So it would take a little bit of the pressure off and trying to hurry and get new stuff in. You're just kind of building off what you already have.
Right.
Which is kind of helpful and a little bit less stressful, but
yeah,
it's kind of nice too, doing horror fest in the middle of the year. I know it seems weird because it's not on Halloween, but it's kind of fun because a lot of people really love Halloween year round. I'm one of those. So my entire house is Halloween. So just so you know, year round, but it's fun for doing something different. A lot of people love any excuse to dress up for something fun during some different time of the year, which could still interfere with the, the film festival in September, but at least We just kind of give a nice change, maybe
Mhm.
something a little different.
And that's what I'm talking about, is if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. So if we, take a shot at it and it starts being a real pain, then we can look at scrapping it. But the whole point is to have fun and to make it profitable and it be worthwhile, is why I'm suggesting.
Anyone else have thoughts on the idea of doing like a little mini horror fest next year as a possibility? At least something to explore and think about. And Tom, you'd get dragged into it in some way.
Oh, yeah.
There's also a mic up there, Kathy. If you want to grab one, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, great. And I think doing it in the middle of the year is totally fine. I wouldn't want to compete with the Portland Horror Film Fest at all. Like you were saying, that was in July, because July could be a great time for it. But yeah, I think that's something to look into. And I definitely like the idea of doing films that are already submitted, because that takes like a bunch of like work off of the film festival side. So that can make it a little bit easier. Maybe not a full 3-day event or anything, and then like also live streaming and stuff. That also that's like a lot, but that's it.
Yeah, no, well, having a couple of those filmmakers maybe rejoin us, and maybe just having a program that's maybe like an hour and a half or something of just like 4 or 5 different films. Yeah. Now I know the Raglan normally does a series of films usually around Halloween of Halloween films. They always do Rocky Horror, and then they usually do something like Hocus Pocus and all that. But maybe this is a tie-in that we can talk to Samantha about and see if maybe they want to do something there.
I think you like that.
You
Good
might
idea.
also consider doing a 48-hour film fest with it, just to increase like people getting involved actively, because horror is one of those genres that's pretty accessible. So it's a really good way to get people to get out and shoot their own thing, and then they're more likely to show up for the whole festival.
Oh, are you talking about a 48-hour slam?
Those
Yeah,
are
like
fun.
48-hour film fest,
Those
big
are so much
proponent of
fun.
those.
Yeah.
Just give them like, because they're so low resource. You just say, here's a meeting place, show up at a certain time to get your line of dialogue, your prop that you have to use.
Yes, you're like shot order and then go. Those are,
And then you just come,
great.
then people just deliver movies to you in 2 days. It's great. People
like
get,
drink 4 pots of coffee and then here's your like deliverable, and yeah.
It's a blast. It's a lot of fun to do.
it's also like the gateway to get people involved in filmmaking in general. 48-hour film fest.
You might find like a local team that you wind up making movies with for the next however many years. Yeah.
So I think a horror fest is a good framework for that.
Thank you so much for recommending that. We were just talking today in our strategic planning meeting about like how we bring filmmaking to Klamath Falls and how we really like give a gateway into people to doing that. So it's a great idea, Aubrey.
Yeah.
Doing
I was wondering if any of the things that we discussed today, you feel ready to discuss tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of looking at what our strategic plan should be for Klamath Films. This is a great group to be chatting about it. Aubrey, honestly, I would love to hear any thoughts you have as kind of an out-of-town filmmaker, but someone who's still involved in our group and who's been to obviously the Cameras and Cocktails and what we can be adding. But we kind of broke it down into 4 different things, like how do we get our liaison work to be more? How do we bring more filmmakers to Klamath Falls and show them all the cool scenery, and how permits are, we're just so welcoming to people filming in the streets and stuff, and it's free. And so how does that liaison work expand? Community and production was a big one. So that kind of falls into that film liaison work, but bringing filmmaking more accessible to Klamath Falls. And so kind of getting people those gateway opportunities. We talked about like a screenwriting kind of opportunity where people submit different screenwritings, and then we could get like a small production group together and just going with one of the ones that were written. And so that would be kind of a cool, fun little like screenwriting slam, I think we were calling it. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm trying to remember. The film fest was fun, for sure. And then I think just more community partnership throughout Klamath Falls. So reaching out to these different organizations who might not think of film as something like that would be really central to them, but something that is actually huge because it's all storytelling and how do they tell their story and stuff. So finding different partners in the community and really bringing that to them. So those were kind of our big ideas. We were thinking like maybe a quarterly type masterclass type thing where we bring in, you know, professionals and they do their masterclass for people, and then we have that recorded for our members anytime they wanted a resource to look at. And then also like exploring acting and exploring screenwriting and exploring all these different kind of sides of the production. So that's really what we're looking at going forward. And that looks like a lot of different things. It looks like, you know, this mini horror 48-hour slam, which would be awesome. Just all these different community events that really reach different niche groups. So yeah, it's kind of what, that was a lot, but that's kind of it's basically just everything is what we're planning. So
if we did that during the school year, we could see about tying in the digital media design program from KCC and Oregon Tech Broadcasting as well. So we get college students involved in it too.
Biggest thing is bringing in the crowd students that
the cord should be long enough. You can probably pull that back to you.
I love the idea of a film night in the park in the summer. I'm going to put my plug in for that.
That's something that we've explored. We've looked at it, and the problem is the projector, the scale of the projector and the screen.
about $6,000.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Our infrastructure.
We do have a portable screen that's about 20 feet wide, and a smaller projector that can work once it gets dark. But if we, summer would be when it's comfortable.
Yep.
Summertime, the sun doesn't go down until 8:39. If you're going to show a film, that's pushing it outside the window of family comfort for being at the park to like 11 o'clock at night. So
You can still do them earlier, Kurt. A lot of the ones here in Portland, they do family ones and they start like at 6 o'clock. It's not dark, but they still have the screen up in it and everything for everybody. So you can still do it earlier. Doesn't have the same effect, but then they also do a later showing for an adult movie later on in the night. So you have
Right.
like two.
The concern is from a logistics standpoint, having a bulb that's bright enough in a projector. And if we were to rent that, like Cassie was saying, it's thousands of dollars to rent, as opposed to buying would be ridiculous. So we would probably have to pursue a statewide grant to try to get something like that. You'd need a projector on the same style as what's currently in the Ragland in order to have something that's bright enough that it could be easily seen when it's still, sun up or twilight before it. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of transient people that camp out at that park. I don't know if I'd recommend showing an adult film. Never mind.
I mean, we used to do those in the summertime during COVID just to have something to do. So, but we would actually take our at-home projector. It's about a $400 projector. And there's a handball court at an elementary school. We would just take it down to the school and project right on the handball court wall with a really small gas-powered generator on the other side of the wall so that the bricks would like block the sound of it. And that was pretty much the whole setup. We had like a little speaker, little line 6 amp. Probably the whole setup. I mean, if we were to buy it new just for that, it'd probably be a $500 setup for the entire thing, but that's just stuff that we had. So it's like easy to do a lo-fi version of it if you can find a good wall and a place that will tolerate you sitting in a field. But I don't know. I like the late night thing was never really an issue for us, but if you're trying specifically to do children's stuff, like that's always going to be way more complicated. So it's like, it's easy if you want it to be, or really hard if you want it to be. So
I would just want to make sure that the presentation is good if it's something that we put a lot of time and effort into.
Yeah, I just feel like I think the brand is Epson, and I'm not 100% sure if that's correct because I know I have a fairly decent projector with a portable screen that I think we bought from either Office Depot or Office Max that essentially it extends and then comes out like that and has springs and then collapses and then folds and
So we already have a
on like a
screen.
tripod. Yeah,
So we're good that we have a screen and a stand.
right. But the way that it would be best utilized would probably be in like a covered pavilion
Mhm.
where it wouldn't be like out on a lawn and like that kind of, nice environment that you would think, oh, it's starting to get dark and in the park and really nice, and that it would kind of be just like in that sort of burger burn type environment and like the picnic area. So maybe that's not the best sort of idea.
Well,
It might want to be.
what that sounds like is what we might be able to do with Oktoberfest.
Sure.
Moore Park, they've got
Yeah.
a pavilion there that could be used
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah. So if we want to have a screen in a pavilion and then a good couple $1,000 projector shine on that, even when it's still a little light out, and it have a good quality projection, then that's workable, I think, if that's what we want to present to the audience. But again, that's just kind of thinking outside the box of whether or not that's what the event is something that, we want to present for what the attendees would get.
All right.
And they could either, sit in chairs, folding chairs, on blankets, on picnic tables. There could be whatever food, whether it's BYOB or however it's set up.
Invite a food truck out.
Food truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beers, if, the permits are in place.
And we have a PA
thinking-
system now too. So
Yeah.
we bought a fairly decent PA, portable PA for the film festival this
Sure.
year. So we have something that could
Set the
transport.
speakers on the tripods and have them routed to the,
Yeah,
however it wants to be coordinated.
it's a possibility for sure. Yeah. Hello. Is that Owen or someone walked in?
Another type of festival that you can do, that's something we did a while back. It was like it's a 30-day animation challenge. It's for anyone who wants to learn how to animate or has potential to animate, for kids pretty much all ages, but it's a 30-day challenge.
Hey,
So
John.
you spend 30 days, each day you draw a different progression of things and then you present it to people. And it's kind of like a fun way to encourage people to do something different that they
Right.
don't normally do. And then they can just present it at a little small event. It's kind of what we did. It was just a little bit of drinks and stuff. And then everyone got to present what they did through the 30-day challenge.
Yeah. And we did have some students in our film camp this year that were specifically interested in animation. And the instructor, there's an instructor at KCC with the digital media design program who specifically specializes in animation. So there could potentially be a couple of people on a local level. And I know there's some animators out in the Medford Ashland area too. In fact, we had one of our award winners, not this year, but last year, or was it 2 years ago, was a 6-year-old from Ashland who did a stop motion film. So, yeah.
How long is your guys' camp? I was curious because I was wanted to come down and participate and help you guys with that, because I love doing different stuff with animation. So stop motion is always fun, and it's fun to work with kids. They love doing that.
It's a 5-day camp. We did it this year, July 11th through 15th at the Klamath Community College campus. And it's a pretty intensive camp. I could certainly scale back on the amount of info that I throw their way for sure, because it's hard enough to keep middle school and high school kids focused as is, much less if you're giving them the finer points of ISO, aperture, and the exposure triangle and trying to get them to focus in the middle of summer. It's like, yeah, okay, dude,
You gotta
whatever.
make it simple. You gotta make it simple. You can do it with your iPhone and an app.
Yep.
Okay. I like that idea, Nina. It'd be great.
Yeah. So
Would our
John,
guests like to introduce?
yeah, John, we don't have a guest this month because we wanted to do kind of a recap of 2022 and a look forward to 2023. So this is very open forum of just discussing what we thought worked this year, what we might be able to do better, and possible things to look at doing next year. If I know, you participated in some of our events and you've been a great volunteer at KIF and whatnot, but if you have any thoughts or anything you want to throw out there in terms of what we did in 2022, anything you think that maybe we got wrong, did right, things we could do better. Okay.
Guy digest.
So we
I'm gonna do my cyberpunk.
so
The next Blade Runner.
that's something that we've also talked about is doing like one-off workshops for the community in general. There's been people that have expressed interest in wanting to learn the basics of how do I film something with my phone? How do I unlock all the tools that are in there? Because all I do is just hit record and stop, and I want to know how to do more. People who want to know the basics of live streaming, like simple like gimbals that you can get for your phone, and how do I use those if I want to make little TikTok videos or something. So like one-off workshops may be a possibility if there's community interest in doing those from time to time as well in specific topics of something like how does the green screen work and how do I use it? How do I do it?
Yep, try.
Yeah. I mean, most of that's done in the editing software, honestly. I mean, it's really about finding a theme that you can then do
Oh, that's the.
well, so like a
Somebody
doorway.
hand him a microphone. We can't tear him out here.
Yeah. So John, you need talking to the mic. We're talking a little bit. He's asking about green screen and how you kind of track that in real time, and most people don't. Most people just do it in the editing. So like you set up a static camera, and if there's a specific theme in a wall or a doorway works really well. If you're trying to do a shot where like you're talking to yourself or something, or there's multiple yous on screen, Aubrey, I'm sure you can speak to this. You've probably done it a few times in editing as well. But you use that theme as a marker point between a mask, and then you film yourself on one side of the room, and you film yourself on the other side of the room. And you just kind of time it out, and then you can mask along that theme, and it looks totally seamless.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the animation side of it. If you're going to incorporate animated things, but the camera angles and everything lock, so it doesn't look stupid. I was just watching like the Game of Thrones stuff, and I know it's quite a setup to do it right. But I imagine there's the budget way to do it too. But I know it's they got things on little train tracks and everything, and the big long extender arms that are all like geared and stuff.
So some of that equipment we do have as things that are available to check out: dollies, tripods, and all that. We have that as gear that can be checked out. But if you're talking about like how do I make a stick that's painted green turn into a giant dragon on screen, that's a lot of money and a lot of very good animators who are working on it many hours so that the actor's looking at a little ball on a stick, and a year later the result is that they're talking to a giant robot or a dragon or something. I mean that's not an easy task.
Also, one thing I'd like to on the kind of opposite side of the coin in regards to that, I think it would be a lot of fun to potentially have workshops where we have anybody interested attend and see someone talk about making things like makeup for monster movies or incredible makeup effects for prestige pictures. Like there's an Oscar winner named Kazuhiro who has worked for directly actresses like Charlize Theron in some of the recent Oscar winner pictures, where he has made her look like some of the most famous newscasters in the last number of years. And those kinds of makeups are incredible transformations that I think some of these effects artists coming up would love to see, maybe locally.
We have someone local who worked for years on horror film makeup in Hollywood who now lives here in Klamath.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Someone to host a workshop like that.
You could always ask Christine Cordum too. She's the one who did all the stuff on Grimm. She still lives locally in Oregon as well.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. And, step builders and anybody who does that kind of the house, like practical effects, to kind of keep that art alive. Because instead of just, constantly focusing on the digital, sometimes it's really fun to get in there and get your hands dirty. If, even we want somebody to teach a class about stunt work. That can be really fun as long as everyone signs a safety waiver. Everybody can go out and do fastball or even get into the fire suit.
One of our board members is a former stunt person, so
that stuff's awesome.
How are we doing?
Yeah.
So we could be thinking about that for this year and get a lot of interest in the local community. Like, wait, what? The Klamath Independent Film Festival is going out and lighting people on fire? And then we make the news in the morning. So
Lindsay,
then people come to the festival because they heard we're torching the locals.
right. So Lindsay Parris is one of our board members.
Fun.
Is a former professional stunt driver and stunt double and actor. So she has lots of experience of like driving cars 120 miles down the Vegas Strip for a national car commercial. And
hey, if we get a permit to have a safety class for that could be really cool. And we could also live stream.
Do a commercial for Prius.
I mean, that could be an advertisement we put up and have on our YouTube channel and share it around and maybe even make some partnerships with. And yeah, I think it could be potentially really a good opportunity for us. Just throwing it out there.
Kurt, I'm sensing that your kids' camp is going to turn into an adult camp as well.
So I mean, all ages interest.
It's a matter of how much vacation time I can put in at work too to be able to present on. One side note, as a possibility of something I was thinking that could maybe be a member's benefit is I make these every year for our students in our film camp, but these are basically like a little 20-page cheat sheet of filmmaking basics with a clip that you can just put on a camera bag or on your belt or something. And there's been some interest from folks I've shown it to about, well, why can't I have one of those too? And honestly, the kids oftentimes end up just leaving it behind. But I have one attached to my camera bag because sometimes when I'm out running around filming or photographing something, I do a quick double check, like, wait, what is the proper shutter speed for this kind of setting or whatnot? So they do take a little while to make, but that may be something as a possibility for like become a member and get the Klamath Film, photography cheat sheet.
I was talking to Kurt about this earlier. As a filmmaker who goes out into the field and shoots all the time with crews, this thing is a lifesaver. Like, I used to be a Boy Scout and prior military. This thing on my belt with my toolkit is one of the best pieces of gear I've ever seen as a filmmaker. Just because if I forget anything critical in my kit, all I got to do is look at any of those pages and remember, yep, that's exactly what I need. It's right there. And it's all laminated. So if it gets wet, none of those pages are going to get ruined.
Cool.
So it's really good. I'm just saying,
I want one
this
of those.
genius. What do you think about price wise? Like $5?
It's not the cost, it's the time it takes to print everything and then laminate it and then cut it all up. And
That's film camp. You said it was because you weren't sure because you bought that.
Right. So it's a template that I bought, and then I from there cut it up and right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like this lanyard design, all you got to do is just clip it right on your belt buckle and then snap, it's right there. And you just flip through the cards and every bit of info you need out of your kit, you're set. So yeah, I think this is really, really good kit.
So maybe something we can add on to as a membership benefit, and when I'll have some vacation time coming up and I can just make like a whole stack of those things as a possibility. I don't know. What do you think, Cassidy?
We just come and print off.
It's a cool little tool to have for everybody.
Yeah.
What were those books called? It was the Ultimate Survival Guide to Zombies or something like that. Or do you remember what those things were?
I mean, there's that whole line of XXX for Dummies type.
Yeah. But there were some specific ones like, but that's just what it makes me think of. Like, you know, you wind up going down the river, these things are gonna last.
Mm-hmm.
So they're cool.
Yeah,
they're real cool.
That's
I'd buy one.
Yeah, that's something that I put together 2 or 3 years ago, and we've just been making them just for the film camp as an added incentive. But people have seen it on my camera bag and have said, "What is that? And where can I get one?" I'm like, "Well, I make them." So,
It's
again,
a good idea to put on the website for sale. It's a way to make money.
I don't think we could sell them though, because it's based off of a design that someone else made. So we'd have to license.
Is it copyright or license?
I'd have to double check what I bought.
Yeah, if you can verify it,
Mhm.
I can.
Or we redirect people to the link where you can access it, and then if they want to buy the rights to it or something through the person that makes it, and then we could laminate or something like that. But some way to distribute it out might be good for folks.
At the very least, I think you should be reimbursed for expenses and time making something like that.
Yeah, at least break even. I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So Klamath Film over the years has also done a lot of just one-off film screenings. We've tried to look at films that weren't readily available on streaming services or in theaters at the time to do a specialty screening. We, of course, do our Oscar shorts as a standalone. We've done some other standalones that either had a local tie-in in some way, like we've done Phoenix, Oregon a couple of times since that was shot here in Klamath. We did Peter Jackson's World War I documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old, in 2019. We did the Gardens of Stone Memorial Day screening with Wayne and a few others this year. We've done whenever James Ivory has come home for a week, because he still keeps the cabin in Lake of the Woods, we do one of his films and a big Q&A, and that usually gets 100 to 200 people out for those. Are there films that because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see a lot of point in putting in all the work of doing a big giant screening of us putting up posters and everything for a film that people could turn around and watch on Netflix. Like it's a lot of effort for very little gain. But if there's things that we can find that are of interest, or maybe have a tie-in in some way that aren't readily available on streaming services, thoughts on doing some sort of one-off screenings from time to time. We've
Oregon only, or Peter Jackson, and I was wondering if we're restricted just to the state.
No. It's obviously films we would have to license, but rent out a theater in the Pelican or a different location, like Cassie put together an event at the Fable Museum. We've done stuff at the Ragland before. If there's a special event upcoming where there was a film that was made about it that isn't readily available, or if there's a film that has some kind of local tie-in. We did THX 1138 because one of the actors was from Klamath, And trying to think of some of the other ones that we've done over the years. Wayne, can you think of any others that we've done in recent years that were just a one-off screening?
No, I think you nailed it.
Kurt, when I was in Utah, ran into a kid that was always screening really odd.
Mhm.
He had a thing that he created called like the Lost Foundation or something like that. And it took me a while to figure out what in the world he was doing. So I'm like, are you just trying to find the gems of this?
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I finally understood. It wasn't just the old dumb. Really, finding things that were never seen before, and probably will never see again. But sometimes they were interesting for different reasons. Sometimes it was stop motion. Sometimes it was some nutty Asian film. I just remember there's this one where they're kind of going out the graveyard and the guy Asian, and they're singing that "Hey-oh." I'm like, like, the 80s. But I was just like, that was random to see them start singing that. I'm like, yeah. So anyway, if I get a hold of them, I might be able to recommend something. Or at least things that you can.
Right. Like ideally it would be something. Okay, Cassidy, please feel free to chime in on this too. But whenever we do a film screening, I want it to be more than just show up, watch a movie, and go. I want it to be more of a experience, whether we're having a filmmaker or an actor from the film that was involved in it joining us for a Q&A, or something that can be interactive in the same way that like the Rocky Horror Picture Show screenings every year. There's props people bring in and people dress up for it. Maybe we have like costume contest. What we do with the Animal House at the film festival, where people came in togas and danced on stage with Otis Day. If we're going to do a one-off screening and go through all the process of posters and distribution and licensing, I want it to be something that feels like an experience that is worthwhile and coming out to, not just we could go see that, but it's on Amazon Prime, so we'll sit on the couch and not pay $10.
Like a lot of these filmmakers or people in film societies like us, they only screen their stuff at their film festivals, and you never see them anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way to kind of connect in that kind of network to find others that we might not see otherwise?
Yes, there is, and that's part of the reason why I and hopefully others do too go to other film festivals, is also kind of scouting for things. About 2 months ago, I was up in Portland for the Portland Film Festival, and most of my time spent there was either meeting filmmakers or checking out films that we might actively solicit for our film festival too. So I already have a list of, as soon as our window opens in February, of people to remind, hey, submit that film that you had at Portland Film Festival for our festival too. So hopefully that'll also increase submissions. But there's definitely, it's tough too, because films rotate in and out of subscription services, but there's so many films on subscription services now that it's hard to find films that you can't find at some point for either free or buried deep in the Netflix queue. There's a handful of things that have come to mind for me. I personally, I don't know if anyone else knows John Perez, he's my all-time favorite filmmaker. Yeah, he has a couple of films that are absolute masterpieces. The one film that he made that everyone in this country knows is Amelie, but he's made a bunch of films, and I think Micmac is it's hilarious, and no one has seen it, and it's not on any streaming services. It's in French, but with subtitles, and it is, if you've seen it, it's a damn near perfect film in so many ways. It's an absolute masterpiece. And I remember when it was in theaters, I was living in LA. I took a date to go see it at the Cinema Dome in Hollywood, and big giant theater of 200 people, and we were the only two there. And it was the only screen in all of Los Angeles that was showing the film. So that even though this guy was an Academy Award winner with Amelie, like his films got zero distribution in the US. So you have to know about him and know how to find it. That's the kind of thing. I don't know if there's a big Klamath audience that would want to watch a foreign film.
That reminds me of the guy that did the Time Bandits and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Terry Gilliam, yeah. Very similar in style.
When they came out, and hardly anything. It was really sad.
Well, Terry Gilliam's a great name to bring up as a filmmaker whose style is totally unique. That when you see one of his films, you know it's a Terry Gilliam film because it's so off the wall weird. Jean-Pierre Junot's films all have this really vivid color spectrum and style, and he has the same actors in all of his films, or in a lot of his films. And so, yeah,
Not the same actors, but City Block Children.
Right.
And actually, it's funny, the old City Block Children VHS trailer
Mhm.
has a Terry Gilliam put in there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He only makes a film maybe every 4 or 5 years, but when he does, his most recent one was Big Bug, which is actually on Netflix and was made specifically for Netflix.
Stories were told, that my favorite film of his, and he yelled at you? Or
No, I've never met him. I've never met him, but if you know Amelie, he made this really great World War I epic called A Very Long Engagement. Delicatessen, his first film, is this weird post-apocalyptic, everyone living in a hotel cannibal film.
Great movie.
Yeah, he's made a couple of English-speaking films. He made a film called The Young and Prodigious T.S. Spivet, which is based on a book. It's about
by John Carpenter.
So you're not talking on a mic, so no one can hear you.
Yeah.
A film about a boy genius who travels cross country to collect an award at the Smithsonian. So like a 7-year-old goes on a cross country trip by himself.
A full filmography of French director territory here.
But I realize that that's a long diatribe, but that's an example of a film that's a truly great film that you can't really find anywhere. People would find funny and entertaining, and we could use it as the marketing of the guy who did Amelie. If you love that film, come see his funniest film that
put on City of Lost Children for Christmas programming.
City of Lost Film's kind of dark though, man.
Love it.
Right, yeah. It's a film about children. That's one.
Outside of the box could be fun, and we could like dip our toe in the water and test if the local community would be interested.
Right.
You know, so I'm all for thinking outside the box and trying it out and seeing if anybody bites.
But if there's other, go ahead, Nina.
Oh, sorry, Kurt. I just say there's a lot more appreciation for foreign films than there ever has been recently. There's a lot more films that are getting released on Netflix that are not American-made films, and they show for a brief amount of time, then they're gone, and you never see them again. So it'd be kind of nice because there's some new ones out. Like there's Old People. It's a German movie. Never heard of it, so just happened to come across of it on Netflix. And as soon as it's gonna be gone, it's not gonna be on there, and no one's gonna even know what it was about. But it's a great horror movie. So there's so many opportunities.
Everyone seems to really love the All Quiet on the Western Front film that's in German.
Sure.
That just came out on Netflix. So
I'm thinking already about different notorious movies that have huge cult followings and reputations that are not available on any streaming services. Like one that immediately came to mind that I can't find on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, anywhere is Pink Floyd's The Wall.
Oh, yeah.
So that might be one if we can get the permission. Could be one worth booking in the theater and having a big promotion for it, and filling, the seats and it being successful. To think about that.
I was also thinking about like Ralph Bakshi animation too.
Yeah, I mean, he had a bunch of great movies that.
He did make the animated Lord of the Rings film. I'm thinking more American Pop. I think Coonskin would not go over well. It is not aged well. Fritz the Cat too. It is, but American Pop is an amazing, iconic film, and I'm not sure if it's on any streaming service.
Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you go to justwatch.com
Mhm.
and you look at the movie. It tells you if it's available on anything or if it's not available. That's the best resource to tell you. So.
Sorry, Tommy, it looks like you've been trying to say something. You've been patiently waiting there.
I've been enjoying the discussion of European films that I've never seen before, but I think it would be an amazing night, right? If you like want to have a themed once a year do a European screen of a film that's not on a streaming service. I mean, I think that would be awesome. You start doing it yearly, like you do with the Oscar shorts, and you might get people in the door that way. And then I think you can also do maybe another screen that's a bit maybe not on the edge and a bit more mainstream, make it a big fundraiser. And then we had a nonprofit theater in one of the other cities that we lived that did like one of those, like the Banff Mountain Film Festival, and they filled the theaters, and that was a big fundraiser for them. So I think you could do both, right? Have these smaller, really kind of personal, intimate film screenings, and also maybe like some fundraisers. Yeah, I think the film screens would be awesome, and I'm guessing they don't take as much work. Maybe I don't really know.
Yeah,
as something else.
It's yeah. I mean, we've done.
Is there a Sundance Film Festival that just comes? Like, can you stream something like that, like another big film festival, and have that kind of come to your?
I mean, I don't know if we can restream someone else's film festival, because these days they're usually selling online tickets, so that would be a whole other negotiation. Yeah.
Well, scenic here. Not say.
Right. Right. There are occasionally like traveling festivals. Like we've had those the last couple of years with like some wildlife ones that the museum has done. So there's possibility of stuff like that. But we used to do one-offs of just a film we thought would be good. And sometimes it was a really great turnout, like the They Shall Not Grow Old film that Peter Jackson did. That came with an exclusive documentary making of that got shown right before the film. And so you kind of got to see how the sausage was made of taking old World War I footage and making it HD and adding sound when sound hadn't been created yet for film and all that.
I just had a few ideas what they're worth. It's just off the cuff ones. There's that one where you got the tire that's always rolling and then killing things.
Rubber, yeah.
Yeah, that one's kind of a unique one.
That's a great film out of its pure weirdness. Yeah. It's a sentient tire that comes to life and has telekinetic powers to kill people, while there's an audience in the film watching it kill people.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is one of the weirdest films you will ever see, but it is memorable if nothing else. It's called Rubber.
Okay. And you could also do screenings to remember.
Right, and we've done a screen or two in here previously. We showed Taylor Morton's documentary. This picked up Scott in the 90s, right before the Comic-Con this year. We did a screening of that in here, and yeah, we would have access to this theater if we wanted to do just smaller one-off group things. We'd have to still get permission from filmmakers and whatnot, but maybe we do like some best of gift type things or something.
One, I had gotten a couple of Russian films once, and one of them was like it was kind of like a love story, but it's the Crimson, or it's like Red Sails. It's kind of a nice story, as far as the film. A little more sit on the edge of your seat film that was interesting. There's a film called Wages of Fear back in the 70s.
Yeah.
That truck going across that bridge. I think they've redone it, but nothing hits it like that 70s one. I mean, my God.
Well, if we,
I think it's called.
Okay.
well, another interesting one to throw in on that same vibe would be Duel,
Yeah.
which is Steven Spielberg's very first film. So you could have a tie-in of talking about the legacy and maybe looking at where great filmmakers first got started, and take a look at like the very first film Spielberg ever made, or the very first thing that George Lucas ever worked on.
I was going to chime in too. This morning I got a PR release from Zeitgeist Film. And this is something I don't know if we want to do, but in regards to anniversary re-releases of movies, If anybody's familiar with the director Peter Greenaway, who had really incredible visuals in his movies. They were always very dramatic. They were incredibly well framed. Think of Stanley Kubrick's films, except like wherein Barry Lyndon was just incredibly opulent and beautiful and amazing. Greenaway's stuff was that, but like Spinal Tap taken up to 11. The film, The Dropman's Daughter, or I'm sorry, The Dropman's Contract, just celebrated its 40th anniversary release. And I don't know if something like that would be worth programming if like The Shining turned 50 and we wanted to.
Well, that's a made in Oregon film.
So something to consider.
Yeah.
If there's like an anniversary coming up of a movie worth programming and advertising, maybe that could be an idea.
We've been really hit.
And you get a special celebrity guest star.
We've been really hit or miss with one-off screenings. The Peter Jackson one had about 75 to 100 people, which is a good turnout for us. We've had some where there were 10 people there.
Yeah.
And so the concern is if we're paying hundreds of dollars for licensing fees to show a film as a one-off, and we're spending money on posters and advertising and putting in all this legwork and 10 people show up, is it something that we should really focus our efforts on?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like with the partnerships and the advertising and the promotions, and like, are those effective with getting the posters on the walls of the buildings and the Dutch Bros and everything?
Well, that's legwork that comes down to myself, Cassidy, Bowen, of just walking from business to business and just saying, hey, can we put this in your window? And, you know, with
like
a
going
stack
up
of
and
like
down
50.
Washburn with like a clown suit on, spinning a sign saying, come to the Raglan.
No, that stuff doesn't work.
That's the same. I mean, you and I need to go down both sides of the road being like, let's move, you know.
Like you got a hot tub on top, and then you're just going down and washing.
Yeah. Well, we'll do that for the next
With
one.
anniversaries movies,
Yeah.
you definitely got to be like a real huge fan to go to them, because like for me, I'm going to one this weekend because Dark Crystal's the 40th anniversary is this year, so I'm going to that.
Dark
because-
Crystal.
Because that's like my all-time favorite movie ever.
Totally.
So those are the kind of things. It's got to be something that has a really strong cult following for people. Even like Labyrinth, you can get Toby to come in because he's done book signings for the screenings of that movie. And he did it here in Portland a couple of years ago. So I mean, you just got to find the right time and the right movie to really attract people for the anniversaries. Those are tough.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, because the right movie is going to attract the crowd.
Maybe less of a question, more just, you know, it seems like there's a ton of really good ideas, but right now limitation, right? The capacity of
Work available work hours is the big issue. Yeah.
Is there any, you know, I know it's really hard as someone who works at a nonprofit, I know how hard it is to get grant funding and that kind of. Is there like any grants that are on the horizon or anything like that to maybe like get some more capacity to maybe do a few more events and not be maybe as worried about maybe lose $100 here, $100 there?
I'd like a vote. You know, like they put it out, say, hey, here's some movies we're considering. Would you like to see? And then maybe let the public try to help chime in a bit, so they just keep us trying to do that. So,
Get the feedback.
Yeah.
you could go to the library, or you could go to a place. Don't, I mean, I know it's not easy, but you could do it online. Say, well, you can go online and just vote online.
Right.
You know, here's the thing.
There's also a possibility of maybe partnerships for presentations. The library does a once a month screening
Right.
of films, as a film and discussion and afterwards. Maybe we can partner with the Ragland on some sort of like profit split instead of like straight up rental as something, or look at the Pelican. If we don't get a big draw, it's not that huge of a hit. So there's options, but it's always kind of a crapshoot in knowing trying to guess at what an audience may like, you know. All right. We have no shortage of ideas, so that's great.
It's almost like it's information around. Oh, here's the thing. Go to the high schools and find out who in the heck are the real social.
All they care about is TikTok. So
I'm actually working at Lost River Junior High and High School right now as a theater art teacher to prepare a group for performing on January 10th for our showcase. And here's what I'm hearing they're really into: Grimm's fairy tales, Cinderella, Coraline, and dark fantasy like Paranorman and Monster House. So things within those kinds of genres and themes, like exactly what you're talking about, Dark Crystal.
We did a 10th year anniversary Coraline screening with people from Leica Studios came down from Portland and joined us and brought some of the Coraline figurines with them, and that was great. And we were planning on doing that every year chronologically with Leica's film.
Yeah.
So the next one would be Paranorman, and after that Box Trolls and so on. And then COVID hit, and the Leica folks said that they wouldn't be traveling anymore.
I can tell you right now, one of my students, Abby, loves the fact that one of our board members was Leica family.
Mm-hmm.
That made her day on Monday.
So
Yeah.
Andrew, you said you do the theater at the high school, right? And they love those kind of movies.
Just 30 minutes away.
What about trying to come up with like a group of kids who want to act it out on the stage and kind of like mimic the movie while it's going on, because they get to practice doing like kind of their acting and doing theater. But because like with Rent, it was a thing that they did a long time ago where a group of kids they acted along with the movie, and all the parents of course came because it's huge, so they want to see their kids on stage, but doing that with a different type of like a movie or something, because a lot of kids have fun doing that, getting to dress up, do something fun, and act out the movie.
Well, we already have a schedule in place. So what's already on our program is on January 10th, we have an hour where they're going to be excuse me. I don't have a drink of water for 2 hours. I start having my tongue roll up on itself, especially when we're having such a great conversation. So they have an hour of one act and solos and duets. So they're going to be performing segments of the Brothers Grimm. They're going to be doing a little bit of some Neil Gaiman stuff, and they're going to be doing some other bits of movies here and there. And that's already programmed. Now, what goes on in the future, we'll see. But what they want is dark fantasy and fun. And they love animated stuff in that sandbox and things from that genre. And if we cater to that,
they would have loved Frank and Zed had they come out. They would have loved Frank and Zed.
See, that's what we're talking about. We're going to tell them they're going to love Frank and Zed.
There's some really good animated foreign films too that are all animated. They're dark, they're kind of creepy. I can do some more research because I found a few. I just haven't looked them up in a while, and they're like 10, 15 years old, and they were kind of like really before their time, before stop motion kind of got into the creepy part. But that'd be something that you could probably like find to stream, and then because there's a one's called From Hell, and it's done.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That one was really good. Kids would love it because it's funny, it's dark, and it's kind of creepy, but it's all stop motion. It was a really good movie.
There's actually a brand new stop motion film that was made in Oregon, called Wendell and Wild.
Wendell and Wild, that was a really good
on
movie.
Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah.
Came out right around Halloween, but that was done by some of the Leica folks, and a few other animators here in Oregon. Aubrey, you've been listening for so long, being very patient. Is there anything you want to chime in with on this? I don't want to just leave you out of the conversation. I know you're not based in Klamath, but still, we would love any sort of feedback or input on what we can do in Klamath to improve the film community here.
If we're making you seize up with all of this going on.
Hey, you got a lot of cool ideas going on. I think you guys have a lot more resources too than some of the.
Well, we want you to be involved.
Yeah. One thing, I mean, I thought it was like just a small thing a while ago, really back on the like, how do you make a gateway for people? Like small potatoes is film open mics, which is something we used to do with the Rogue Valley Messenger back when they were bigger. It's basically just like you pick a venue that's willing to host a small movie screening, and it's like a regular event, maybe quarterly, where people can just show their short film. It's really simple. It's just like creating a space for it. And that's it. It's just holding the space and saying this is a 3-hour block where you can bring your like 15-minute film or whatever and show it. So that's really the only like idea that I had as far as like bringing stuff in. You guys have like way bigger ideas on like bringing in bigger properties. So I don't know. I think just do what you're doing. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely great idea. Like an open mic film presentation forum. Just show up with an MP4.
Well, we would probably want to screen things first. We don't want to sign up with like their sex tape or something.
Oh no.
I don't know, man. That's a bold move. Just show up with a sex tape.
Yeah.
You
No, I
can't
don't
put
think that was the
restrictions
bar.
on there too, or they can't
Right.
do certain
That could
things.
go sideways so fast.
Tell people
Yeah.
what to bring. That's what they're gonna bring.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's
You give people
exactly
parameters
it.
and operate on the honor system, and then make an announcement of like, hey, this is on the honor system. Here are our content requirements. Don't be a dick. And usually people are cool. Yeah, no, I mean, we just thumb drives. We just
We're all
show up.
adults here. Full disclosure, and
Yeah.
everyone just brings the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. Of course they would. Too funny. No, I really like that. I think just, doing like a screening like the day before, like, hey, we're gonna do a kind of open mic night submissions, bring it the Thursday prior to the Saturday when we do the thing. Have it be like an hour and a half long. Kurt, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm also trying to think of ways. We are OMPA members, just like Film Southern Oregon is.
OMPA being?
The Oregon Media, Oregon Media Production Association, I think, or
I think it's media professionals.
so something like that. So Klamath Film essentially is like a regional hub of the statewide OMPA or Oregon Film Office, and then there's Film Southern Oregon, which Aubrey's a part of, and they do the Cameras and Cocktails events. They put on things out in Medford. There's other regional Klamath Film type organizations around the state that do similar things, so that the state can be divided, so that if like a film studio comes to Tim Williams at Oregon Film and they say we want to film in Southern Oregon, they can either redirect them to Courtney at Film Southern Oregon or to us at Klamath Film to help from there. So I would love to see some kind of cross promotional work. I mean, we are traveling. I try to be at the Cameras and Cocktails events every month if it works into the schedule.
When's the next one?
December 14th will be the next. They're doing like a birthday celebration thing for OMPA, Wednesday, December 14th. So I try to go out to those so that people in the Medford, Ashland, Jacksonville, Grants Pass film community remember that we are out here in Klamath too, and we can help out as well. But I'm curious if there's some ways that we could be more engaged or more collaborative of working with them, or getting people from Medford, Ashland to possibly come out to Klamath maybe. I don't know if we could rent like a shuttle van or something and bring a bunch of members out to like a group thing in Klamath, and then in turn we take a bunch of our Klamath folks out to Ashland for something. I'm not sure Amtrak goes through Medford.
I think it does. I think it's like a 2 hour, an hour and a half, couple bucks ride from here to Medford.
I'm just trying to think of ways that we could get Film Southern Oregon and Klamath Film to actually work together, as opposed to just being the two regional hubs that occasionally we show up at each other's things.
So
Well,
Kurt, the
definitely
dates for the
yeah.
events for OMPA have been released on their site. The
Okay.
the birthday for bash for Portland is December 2nd, which is tomorrow.
Yep, they
Southern-
did announce that one.
Southern Oregon is going to be December 14th.
Correct, but it says
And
TBD
then-
for where.
Huh?
But it says TBD for where.
Yeah, the location has not been determined, and then Bend is going to be December 15th.
Right. So that is known, but until we have a location, it's still a little up in the air for what exactly is going on. But Aubrey, you're more tied in with the Medford community, but we do have a lot of folks from Medford to Ashland that submit films to our film festival every year and do come out for our film fest. But I'd love to see more. I'm not sure what we could even do. Maybe there's this thing to talk about at Cameras and Cocktails of what kind of things we can do to try to be more collaborative or make the film community be more connected in Southern Oregon as opposed to Klamath doing its own thing and Ashland Medford doing its own thing. I'm not sure beyond us just coming out because at least you've seen me at a bunch of the Ashland events and some of our other members, Wayne comes out and a few others. But I want to ideally try to connect those communities if you have any ideas.
Yeah, it's tough because just the physical distance thing, people are weird here about even driving from Ashland to Medford. They're like, oh, it's a whole other town. It's so far. It's 15 minutes, like tops. So that's something you're always going to be battling. It's just like for Klamath, coming from there to Ashland is not as big a deal as going from Ashland to Klamath. Just there's a mental block. But I will say, like, things are real weird with AIFF right now. I don't really know.
There's been a lot of admin turnover, right?
What?
There's been a lot of administrative turnover.
Yeah, there was a leadership
Ashland Film Festival.
vacuum. Sorry, yeah, Ashland Independent Film Festival. That was like the big marquee festival of the region. Richard Herskowitz took off, and his replacement then also took off. And I think there were two people that sort of had false starts for taking over. And with that leadership vacuum, it looks like it's collapsing in on itself. There's not a ton of information that I have, but it's real shaky right now, which could mean it's in a position where it's poised to build partnerships to save itself, but it has to like have a point person that wants to put the effort into saving it. So the only person I really like that I'm kind of connected to there who has a little bit more intel than I do is Chris Lucas. He's over at SOU. He's like the film professor.
Right, he works with Andrew Gay.
What's that?
He works with Andrew Gay.
Yeah, exactly. So they're definitely better point people for a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I would say like any connections you can make with what's left of AIFF right now, I would try to make those connections now. And I don't know if that'll turn into anything yet, but it may be a good chance to sort of say like, hey, you're struggling. Let's like try to lift you up by creating some kind of a partnership.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
So,
And I realize that's really non-specific. So maybe
That's so obvious. Yeah, because I have been trying to reach out to people at AIFF, and then I realized what was going on with it. But I think that's a great point to be like, hey, we can help. Like, we would love to be your sister organization, like for sister cities. Like, let's figure out how we can share our resources or do that. So that's a great point. And friendly,
Yeah.
and really, and
Yeah.
to do.
like,
Never travel to Klamath Falls. I'm just gonna say it right now.
I'm helping.
Right. Well, what Abby said there was very valid. Like before I moved to Klamath, I actually lived in Lakeview for a couple of years. I went from Hollywood to Lakeview. You want to talk about a culture shock? For those who don't know, it's a little tiny, like 2,000 person cow town about 100 miles east of Klamath. But people in Klamath are like, oh, Lakeview's so far. It's like a 90-mile drive. I would never do that. People in Lakeview come to Klamath to get lunch. Like it's not a big deal for them to make that trek over. And I feel like there's also that similar vibe here in Klamath that people will go to Medford and Ashland just for the hell of it. And it's not a big deal to make that drive. But people in Medford are like, oh God, it's like an all-day trip to have to go to Klamath Falls. It's a full 60 miles. Why would I do that? So yeah, that is a barrier that we have to try to And I don't know how we could break that outside of maybe doing like some sort of like carpool thing, or maybe like rent a bus or a van or something.
Yeah, let's do carpool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people can't drink. That's the other thing. You can't like go to the films and parties and have a bunch of drinks and then go back home to Ashland the same night.
Right. Right.
That's a freaky highway to drive on at night. So
The one thing we can do is like we do with church. Sometimes when we get together for the different stakes, like here, Medford, Ashland, we go to like Lake of the Woods,
Hmm.
you know, because it's a middle point.
Right.
And so you actually have a church camp up there, but they also have the lodge and other things. So, I mean, you would have a big enough venue to hold enough people around the lodge area.
We've even a couple times held just our Klamath Film meetings at Lake of the Woods in past years too, just as a different location and place to go to. So maybe if it is a halfway point, Lake of the Woods being, you know, maybe as a summertime thing, you know, when the road's a little bit easier to access.
Well, I was gonna say, maybe if we want to bring a bunch of our partners from around the region to Klamath and really bolster Klamath as the best place around here to be, we work out a deal and put them up in the Cerulean or something like that. Some kind of, you know, really 5-star setup and treat them incredibly well for the weekend. Send them off happy.
I'm not sure we have the budget for it, but
yeah, this whole thing about what is it? AIFF. Yeah, it sounds like they're unstable. Is what is going on. So maybe we be diplomatic with them, and we offer the olive branch and all of that, and stay friendly, and let them know that we're solid, and we're there for them, and we're just friendlies. And as they reorganize, that goes on until we just keep that partnership alive.
We did have a really good relationship with Richard. Richard was great, helped us out a bunch of times, and then we in turn helped him out. But then once he left, we kind of lost all contact with AIFF and weren't sure who to actually reach out to. And sounds like it's kind of stayed in that influx period for quite a while. Yeah, but SOU also does their own film festival too for their students. Yeah.
Another thing is that we're going to start getting reimbursed for student submissions to our film festival.
Oh.
That's a new Oregon thing. Oregon Film is offering submission costs for everybody, so they're subsidizing it.
Oh.
Instead of giving out free codes, they have a free code, and then we get paid for the student.
Oh, so that'll add to our film freeway income. That's nice. Okay.
I just remembered one more thing I wanted to mention about hospitality and hosting talent and partners. I found out just over the last couple of days that the Skylo Inn, right between OIT and Lakeview, is going to be getting a new restaurant and lounge, possibly in an fully set up for service by Christmas. So that like fully in and ready to serve customers. I can't remember who is going to be in there, but the restaurant I believe is going to be fully open, and so is the lounge as well. So they're having a new leaser. So something to think about if we want people coming in from out of town who want to have a good place to stay that has a restaurant and somewhere to get a drink at.
Cool.
Yep.
So we got about 10 minutes left. Thank you for everyone. Normally with about 10 minutes left is when we start to wrap up our Q&A with our guests. But again, since Josh wasn't available, tomorrow, Violent Night comes out in theaters. So go check that out. And then we'll probably have the screenwriter for that film next month as our guest if he's available. But that film looks kind of awesome too. It's like Die Hard if Bruce Willis was Santa Claus kind of thing.
That's one that
it stars David Harbour. It's got John Leguizamo. Yeah. So that. So I'm working on getting the screenwriter of that film to be our next guest. But if there's ideas on guests that we should try to approach for next year, or maybe people in specific fields that we should try to bring in for these meetings. So always open to any sort of ideas on that. But I want to give everyone kind of a last chance with our few minutes here. Since our topic today was really a year in review and what we could do going forward, if people have like a favorite thing, and I know Aubrey, you haven't really been a part of our organization previously, but maybe favorite thing that we did, or something we did right, or final thought on something that we could do going forward. And we'll kind of wrap up as we kind of give everyone a chance to get a final word in. So Nina, as a new board member, and you got to participate in the film festival and started to hear about more what we did. Did you have a thing that you liked that we did, thing that you didn't like, thing we could do better, or an idea for 2023 going forward?
Well, I really enjoyed the film festival. It was a lot of fun for me, and I really liked like the community that was, like the atmosphere that was there, because that's probably the first film festival that I've been to that's been that really friendly, and everyone was like talking to each other and excited about each other's films. So for me, it was really cool. I'm still learning about all the things that you do. So my question is, if I have a couple of people that in mind to do like the guests, who would I have them contact specifically? Because I can reach out. I have a few friends that do, they're directors. They've been in the industry like for 40 some years, some of them in like 50. But they're really good guys, and they love talking about music videos, the different movies that they've done. So I can reach out to them.
Yeah, you can absolutely either pass their contact info along to Cassidy or myself, and we can reach out, or you can make that initial contact and then relay them to us. Really, whatever works. Usually about a week or two before this meeting, I kind of sit down and go, oh crap, who am I going to invite this month to our next meeting, and just start making blind calls to either old buddies from my days in Hollywood, or someone that got connected to us in some way or has a local connection, or sometimes it's blind shots. Hey, in the dark, I liked this film you were in. Could you talk to us for an hour about it and other things you've done next week on Zoom? And sometimes people are like, yeah, awesome. Yeah.
I'll reach out to the few people that I know. They're super hard to like pin down to a date. So the sooner I talk to them, the sooner they'd be like, oh, I'm available this date.
Right.
Instead of you having to like try to
It's always just first Thursday of the month. So like,
okay.
Last month we had Terrence Hines, right? This actor who's been in a million different things. The reason why was because I attended Portland Film Festival in October. I met him and his wife there. They were super cool people. We chatted for a long time, and I was like, hey, are you available to possibly do a Zoom call? He was like, absolutely. Hit me up. And the Thursday of last month was the only day of like that entire month that he didn't have a thing he was booked for. So he was like, yeah, it fits in my schedule. I'll be there. And so he just as a whim, one-off, met a cool person who's done all these amazing things in the industry. And I thought that was a super fun conversation. But I always want to take advantage of, if we have any of those connections, just put it in people's ear. Hey, sometime could we maybe have you join us via Zoom just to talk about what you do and projects you've done, and we'll just have a chill talk.
Okay.
If you know people, I don't want to be a dictator on this stuff. So
like the costume side of life, like source all of their materials and everything, and how do they, because sometimes getting that look and feel, a lot of it is built around the characters, which is how they look. He's talking about the makeup, but almost like you got to get the person dressed properly too. So,
yeah. Well, since I just finished with school, all my professors, they're all in the industry. And I made really good friends with a lot of them, and I stay in touch with them because they're really great people. And they're always willing to like, hey, I'll talk and, sit and talk about, they love talking about their films. I mean, who doesn't like talking about their films? So that's why I'm just curious as to who, if I reach out to them, who do I have them contact? So I just wanted to check, because I have a few people in mind who I know would probably be willing to talk about.
You can always message me, or you can always contact Cassidy.
Thanks, Nina. That's a great idea. And yeah, the sooner the better. It makes it less hectic.
And my And I have one other question. When is the January meeting? Because I know you said it was in person, so I was gonna try to
Mhm.
see if I could arrange to come be there. Because for me, it's 6 hours to get there.
I don't think we have set a date yet for our January meeting. The first Thursday in January is January 5th. So that's when we'll be doing our next
Yeah.
one of these. But I don't know, maybe that weekend, the 7th or 8th is most likely when I'm guessing we would do our board meeting.
The 14th, just to give people a little bit more heads up.
Right.
But like if there's a specific weekend that does work better for you for that big drive and you wanted to make that, we could, try to accommodate for sure.
If you guys do it on a weekend, any weekend's fine with me because I don't work on the weekends. It gives me it gives me a chance to head down on Friday because my family lives in Rogue River. So for me, it's an hour and a half drive from there to Klamath Falls.
But don't feel obligated that you have to drive across the entire state just for us.
Oh no, see, it's a good excuse to drop my kids off at their grandparents and then I can go up there. So, no, it's not a problem.
Also, I'll send that out.
Yeah.
That just giving people the heads up. But thanks for bringing it up.
Tommy, do you
I was
have
just curious so I can plan it.
anything you want to chime in with as we wrap things up?
My highlight for the year was the Saturday night at the film festival at the Martini Bar
Mm-hmm.
with all the filmmakers and then myself. And so it was fun to chat with them. And
Mhm.
so cool to see everyone talking at like our local Martini Bar in Klamath Falls, right next to the theater. It was really, really fun. I had a great time.
Those networking meetings at the film festival are always fun. Yeah. And I think that does a lot to create that culture that Nina was talking about, was getting people away from the theater just to sit down and have a drink and talk. Really lets people kind of open up and get to know everyone else. And by the end of the festival, everyone's buddies.
And for me, I work with the Klamath tribe, so it was cool to get a different work perspective like that.
Mhm. So. Cool. Appreciate
my
it.
first member meeting.
Yeah. John, is there any, you want to grab the mic, and if there's anything that you want to chime in with from this year or ideas for next year, or?
I just want to say I was sorry.
Oh, hey, and Andrew unplugged his mic.
Andrew's always. No, I was sorry I couldn't make the film festival this year. I was stuck really in the thick of stuff with
The estate and all that.
dealing with tying up the estate.
Yeah.
I mean, what, 35 plus loads to the dump and 6 yard sales. I mean, this summer has been not my favorite. So, anyways, but I'm always thinking about the cyberpunk thing I want to do. Of course, right now, I want to get all this stuff done because like everything's on sale now. Like I'm buying up all kinds of sound packs because I'm kind of like the aspect of it, and so I'm kind of more the sound guy coming to be the filmmaker rather than the other way around. But I don't know. It's just the interesting things like I was talking about earlier. Just how do they do some of these things? I think it's just getting your feet wet. Just like getting, instead of just seeing it in the special features, to actually do something. Doesn't have, just so that you can start getting the feel of how it really works. And, I just think it's just, popping the cherry, getting over the hump, some of those things. So that's why I am interested in those things. And I know that there's a lot of software and stuff out there, and there's things to help, and you got a lot of things to do, but you can vault. Just I'm just trying to get to that point where I can have a little bit of experience so that I can feel like I can see the light, and then that's just kind of where I'm coming at. And a lot of in the past I was just like I always wish we had more opportunities to collaborate, and I guess that was one of the sad points coming on initially, was like, oh, we don't do that, and I'm like, what?
Well, we try to. It's a matter, but cooperation is a reciprocal process. Sometimes it takes other people wanting to be involved too.
That's true. I mean, it took a little while to kind of, when you come and do something, you always have your idea of how it works and then find out how it really works. So I do look forward to more things, but I know that I don't want you to have to always be the one having to do it all. I don't.
Well, I'm not. Cassidy,
Yeah,
Cassidy's our director now. She's
I know. Okay.
a lot falls on her. I've taken I realize I realize I command these meetings a lot in terms of managing it, but really I've taken a huge step backwards. I don't do nearly as much as I used to. Cassidy's taken on the majority of the work with the organization. Andrew, anything you want to chime in with as we wrap up?
Well, first thing I want to do is hand John the phone real quick because there's some great music packs there from composer Drew Newman. I think you might really like if you want to flip through some of his stuff from the scores of the show Eon Flux, which is great cyberpunk stuff. If you remember MTV's,
I watched every episode.
Animated, exactly.
Yeah.
So my favorite thing from this year was my introduction to KIF, which was on Saturday night of KIF Day 2, going to the Martini Bar and sitting down with all the directors, and then there was me. And it was great. But seriously, I absolutely loved the culture. And I just say that because, it was awesome being able to hang out with everybody, all the filmmakers, being able to get to know everyone who was there showing their movies and talking to each other and bonding. And I mean that in that everyone was really in the moment at the Raglan, part of the festival, and together, just experiencing and sharing what we were all really there for, to enjoy each other's films and to lift each other up. And what happened that I experienced was I got to meet Kurt, and I got to meet Steven, I got to meet Cassidy, and I got to meet everybody. And we all talked about our backgrounds, we all talked about our history, and we all got to eat good food, and we all got to have great drinks, and we all got to discuss the films that we watched. And then I went back to my house, and I came back for the next day. And there were a lot of local showcases, and we got to see the younger filmmakers show their work and get their awards. And we got to see the finale awards of everyone who got to get their big final best director, best feature, and the end of the festival. And then there were conversations about what was next. And since then, the partnerships and relationships that I've had from KIF have grown. And now I'm part of your board. And that's huge for me, because being a part of this film community is something that's really important. And some of the people who were at the festival, I'm now working with. And we are looking at projects that are on our outlook. And we're reviewing each other's scripts. And we're going over budget breakouts. And we are talking about legal documents. And we're going over contracts. And we're putting things into production. And we're in different stages of development on things. So that actually, to me, is the most important thing that comes from a festival, is the work and the connections that you get, that you build from seeing someone who you think, I want to work with them, and I want to make something with them, and I like what they're doing, let's go make a movie. And that's what KIF did. And what I like about this group and how we have special guests, this is a perfect example. Last month, we had Terrence Fermi Hines, their special guest. And he was a great person to talk to. And then right after that meeting, I went and I followed him on Instagram. And then he messaged me. And he said, hey, it was great talking to you. And I said, yeah, it was a blast. And he said, you mentioned that you do publicity. I said, yeah. And he said, can you help me get the word out about my short film that's up for an Oscar nomination? And I said, yeah. And he hired me to do a publicity campaign or his Oscar short Stupid. And that's important. And that's something that we should be able to offer anybody who wants to be involved in KIF. Those kinds of things, those kinds of opportunities, and those kinds of jobs, where if someone is looking for work related to the entertainment industry, that kind of gateway path is available if you want it. And it takes work, it takes years, it takes experience, and it takes education, but it's there. And I'm thankful to be here to be able to take advantage of that, but also to be able to give it back a little bit. And then the last thing that I'm really thankful for is just to hang out and talk about Jean-Pierre Jeunet movies, because Delicatessen is great, and everybody should watch it.
And McMax. And young producer C.S. Pivot, and a very long engagement, and yeah.
Yes, City of Lost Children.
City of Lost Children.
Because it's a great Christmas movie, so if you look at City of Lost Children, there's applause in the first 5 minutes, and Ron Perlman's in it.
Yep.
So that should tell you.
Influence points the entire time.
100.
We've run really long here, and I apologize for that. Audrey, I know this is your first time joining us. This may have been a little overwhelming with us throwing out all this stuff and we've done that you didn't get to participate in. But I promise we will have a guest next time around if you choose to join us again in the future. But any final thoughts you want to share?
I think you guys are doing some really great stuff over there. I love that you have all the resources you have and a lot of passionate people on the crew. So I'm excited to see what happens next.
Appreciate you joining, and hopefully we get to see you again.
Thanks, guys.
And then Cassidy?
Oh, wow.
Your favorite moment was the nap after the film festival was over.
Tommy was like, "What are you?" Bed. My cat. Yeah, I mean, I just was really blown away by the filmmakers and who all came and all the quality of the shows at KIF, and it just made me really excited for next year and for even amplifying all those filmmaking relationships. So really thankful to be here and for everyone who comes to these meetings. And Aubrey, so nice to meet you virtually. Hope to meet you at a cocktails event at some point. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So but yeah, I'm just really grateful for everybody. And John, nice to meet you this evening. I mean, I just feel like I'm still getting my feet wet. It's been really fun and everyone's been awesome. So I'm pleased.
Thank you everyone so much for being a part of our December meeting. We will do this again. The first Thursday of January is January 5th at 6 o'clock will be our next meeting. As soon as we confirm a guest for that, we will put it out on the website and social media. But thanks everyone for being a part of this, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.